checks. 300. 300 check stabilizers. Set at 75%. Copy. Copy. Copy.
In a previous video discussing all of the strange and peculiar events surrounding the shelter-in-place shutdown order on Washington, D.C. on November 26, 2019, possible scenarios were entertained as to what actually led to that shutdown order. Among the possible scenarios was that on that date, a biological weapons attack was initiated against the United States in the state of Maryland, just outside the northern perimeter of the no-fly zone around Washington, D.C. Based on newly acquired satellite data that had previously been scrubbed from the internet by what is known as the deep state, this author goes past mere speculation posited in the first video, and herein definitively declares that on November 25, 2019, the deep state here in the United States of America launched a biological weapons attack on its own citizens. Or should I say, subjects. Herein I make my case, and to those persons and entities mentioned in this analysis that might be offended by it, I offer a sincere apology to the innocent, but a severe rebuke to the guilty. May you burn in hell with the rest of your ilk. On the evening of November 25, 2019, and just a few hours after Secretary of the Navy Richard V. Spencer was removed from his appointed position by Defense Secretary Mark Esper, deep state actors launched a biological weapons attack against the citizens of the United States as punishment for them having dared to elect President Donald J. Trump and as an attempt to thwart his re-election. The biological weapon attack began at the BSL-4 Biological Research Laboratory at Fort Detrick, Maryland, where an unnamed deep state operative removed samples of a SARS-2 virus that had previously been obtained from the Wuhan, China BSL-4 Biological Research Lab. This specimen was needed in order to develop a vaccination for that very same SARS-CoV-2 virus. Ironically, Dr. Anthony Fauci designed this SARS-CoV-2 virus in his Wuhan BSL-4 lab and then imported it to the Fort Detrick BSL-4 lab so that a vaccine could then be developed to protect against COVID-19, which is the disease that is caused by SARS-CoV-2. Had it not been for developing the virus in the first place, there would have been no need for a vaccine. This scheme was not mainly about making money from developing a defense against a biological weapon. Nor was it about developing an offensive weapon on foreign soil because federal law had outlawed such research on U.S. soil long ago. But rather, this biological attack was yet another attempt by the deep state to remove a duly elected president from office because he did not fit into their plans to help bring about a new world order, where God was nothing, men and women were even less, and the hierarchy of the New World Order reigned supreme. As for the timing of this biological weapons attack, which had been waiting in the wings for many months, the deep state knew that it was now or never. As President Trump's economy was booming, unemployment was at an all-time low, especially for black employees. The trade war with China had just been won. Plus, Democrats' impeachment efforts were proven to be a bust. The deep state knew that if they didn't act quickly, Trump would surely be reelected. This is the last thing they wanted. Worst of all, however, from the standpoint of the high-ranking deep state actors in the various branches of the United States Armed Forces, President Trump was actually exercising his constitutional powers as the commander-in-chief by intervening in lower-level military matters that traditionally were handled many ranks below. This was a shot across the bow of the deep state military elite that the president was in fact and indeed the commander-in-chief over everything that those civil servant military lifers might do. This annoyed them to no end. This type of brazen behavior by any president, especially President Donald J. Trump, would not be tolerated by the deep state, and so they launched their plan and their biological weapons attack against the citizens of the United States of America. One aspect of the timing of the attack concerned the method of the attack, that being aerosol dispersal and the relevant weather conditions required prior to, at, and after launch. That is, a successful launch of this bioweapon would depend on environmental elements such as wind speed, humidity, and ultraviolet conditions, which were tailored to the strengths and weaknesses of this particular SARS virus. A quick explanation of these limitations is in order. To begin, and although coronaviruses are thermolabile, that is, they are very sensitive to heat, SARS-CoV-2 appears to be stable at 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 24 hours and will not be inactivated until exposed to a heat source of 132.8 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 30 minutes. Additionally, the World Health Organization stated that coronaviruses are very stable in a frozen state with biological viability at -4 degrees Fahrenheit of up to 2 years, and a SARS-CoV-2 virus refrigerated at 39.2 degrees Fahrenheit will be viable for up to 72 hours. As to the effects of humidity on SARS-CoV-2, one study observed significant attenuation of transmission in climates with sustained daily maximum temperatures above 60 degrees Fahrenheit, with a simultaneous humidity level below 78%. Further, on the effects of humidity on SARS-CoV-2, studies agree that humidity alone is not a determinant factor, but when the environmental condition is taken into account with temperature, a pattern seems to appear wherein the SARS-CoV-2 virus did very well in a cool and dry environment, but had a decrease in efficacy in either an extremely cold environment or one that was extremely hot and humid. Next, and in regard to the effect of light on SARS-CoV-2, older studies indicate that the visible wavelengths of light that reach the Earth without being filtered by the atmosphere is that those wavelengths do not appear to dramatically affect the vitality of this virus. Notwithstanding this, a recent study concluded that simulated natural sunlight in the UVA and UVB ranges can quite efficiently inactivate SARS-CoV-2 in a matter of minutes. Regardless, all studies conclude that the ultraviolet C wavelengths that are completely filtered out by the atmosphere will quickly inactivate this virus at a frequency of 264 nanometers. There are many commercial products currently available designed to produce this UV frequency for the purpose of decontamination. That being said, these biological limitations on the SARS-CoV-2 virus appear to limit airborne dispersal methods to ones that do not inherently produce heat, such as would be the case with the missile. An exception to this would be when the payload of the missile was protected from the heat source, as would be the case when the warhead of the missile contained the actual explosives, chemicals, or biological material. Of course, then, this would leave a signature pinpoint area of detonation of those explosives or plume of chemical or viral contaminants. A clear look at the satellite footage demonstrates that the linear dispersal pattern of the initial deep state bioweapons attack was not the result of a missile launch. Being so, the next two probable unclassified methods of dispersal would be by airplane or helicopter fitted with agent storage tanks and a mechanical delivery system. In fact, Fort Detrick, the home of the subject BSL-4 lab, is the same Army base that designed just such airborne delivery systems for the Army before, during, and after the conflicts in Korea and Vietnam. Now, and after discussing the two most probable unclassified methods of dispersal of the SARS-CoV-2 virus over the Pennsylvania-Maryland border, we will now analyze the path that the bioweapon cloud took over the northeastern United States and how a combination of weather, chemistry, traffic patterns, and possibly even the breath of God Almighty altered the planned course of this plague in a manner that significantly decreased the efficacy of the virus and thus dramatically lowering the initial death count that the deep state had planned for. To begin, and to put it most bluntly, neither luck nor Jesus Christ himself was on the side of the deep state on the evening of November 25, 2019, when these domestic terrorists gave the green light to this black op just after sunset at around 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is made clear by analyzing weather report data from several airports in the vicinity of the bioweapons launch, which established that the optimal weather conditions that existed when the green light was given to the operation were quite different from the weather conditions 2 hours later at launch time. To explain, in order for the bioweapon attack to be most effective, the viral agent would need to be dispersed over the widest area possible that had the highest population as possible. In this instance, and considering the location of the launch and the linear shape of the SARS-CoV-2 infused cloud, the best scenario would be to have mild north or northeast winds prevailing during the black op. However, and in what can only be described as a miracle, the optimal north-northeast winds that prevailed during the final preparations of the launch dramatically decreased to 0 knots at launch time and until the viral cloud had made a beeline straight from ground zero due east to the Atlantic Ocean in the straightest line possible. It was as if God Almighty himself intervened and commanded the winds to stop, so that many lives could be saved that would have otherwise been lost due to hospital overcrowding that would have occurred had the initial launch winds held fast, thus dispersing the viral agent over the interiors of Pennsylvania and New York, and then all points eastward. However, this divine intervention did not spare everyone, as the viral cloud that was slowly descending as it traveled due east towards the Atlantic Ocean infused a large portion of its viral material into some manner of haze or fog at the location of the airborne anomaly discussed in a previous video. The result of this is that vehicular traffic passing through this now viral anomaly would be transporting this highly contagious pathogen up and down the East Coast, including Baltimore, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. to the south, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Trenton, New Jersey, and also New York City to the north. Another possibility concerning the anomaly that occurred near the mouth of the Susquehanna River is that upon realizing that the initial linear dispersal of the viral agent was spoiled by an uncooperative weather pattern, the deep state operatives went to Plan B, which actually might have been Plan A2 all along, and launched a ground-based bioweapon attack near the mouth of the Susquehanna River, as fully discussed in the prior video. Finally, and as should be pointed out here, a recent study of the different strains of the SARS-CoV-2 virus indicates that both the original strain found in China and the original strain found in the United States came directly from the very same parent virus. The significance of this is that the only way that could have happened is if the parent strain traveled from a BSL-4 laboratory in China to a BSL-4 laboratory in the United States, or vice versa, in sealed containers and then released in each of those countries. Any other method of transference, such as through the air or touch, would have produced different parents in the China strain than in the United States strain. This scenario would be directly opposite of the DNA sequencing data of the study and therefore highly unlikely.
Copy.